Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Strat Fan Forum Football Show. I'm joined, as always, by Tom Cook, my more than capable co-host, and the silky, the golden-toned broadcaster. We're going to talk today about the SOMIFA draft. This is a post-draft recap show. How you doing this morning, Tom?
Doing good, Dennis. I got my Sunday morning look on. You can see my hair's all up in the air, and I'm like still kicking back. You got the pillow behind you. This is Sunday morning, 11 a.m. East Coast, 8 a.m. Pacific, and it's the first Sunday of the NFL season. I want to say it's the first day of the NFL season, but obviously they played on Thursday night. But 1 o'clock start for the Jets in Cleveland. A bunch of other games of interest today. Maybe we should do a football show one of these days. I'm interested in that Colts-Bills game. You know, Colts at Bills, Rex's defense against Luck, and the Bills already had a great defense. Now Rex is there, so that's going to be really interesting. But as good as the defense is, the offense is terrible. But anyway, so it's a good time for us to sneak in this draft show. Yes, very much. And
I just popped on to NFL.com to see the slate of games, and there's a little blurb there under the latest headlines that the Jets have inquired about trading for Kirk Cousins. Interesting.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they asked in the past tense, so we'll see if one of those Redskins quarterbacks winds up in New York City.
Green and white. Well, they put Audrey through the bench, and they're going to trade the starter, Kirk Cousins.
No, I don't think they're shopping him. I think the Jets inquired about him before they named the starter.
I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. So, well, you know, since you did that, now you made me bring up the slate of games here today, real quick.
Yeah, the games that I would, if I could choose to watch, of course, I'm going to watch the Seahawks. But the other games that interest me, I kind of want to see how that Dallas New York Giants game tonight. That's going to be a good one to watch. Obviously, everybody's picking Dallas, but the Giants might actually put up a fight this year. Should be interesting. Cincinnati Oakland. We talked about it before we started the broadcast. That's kind of actually an interesting game. The Oakland bad. Of course, the Green Bay. Well, I don't care about Green Bay, Chicago, Indiana, Buffalo. Like you talked about, should be good. Kansas City, Houston, the Hard Knocks, coming off Hard Knocks. Let's see how those Texans guys do.
Yeah, I picked the Texans in that game, even though they have Brian Hoyer. He'll have to overcome and endure, as Rich would tell you on the forum.
Some people are picking Kansas City to win that division, so it should be an interesting game.
Yeah, I think people are going to look carried away with the Chiefs. They still got Alex Smith, the quarterback in the NFL. Great strat card, but NFL maybe not so much. Dante Pozola banged up even though he's playing. I don't know. On top of he's getting a little older. I don't know. I'm the big on the Chiefs this year, but I think the Kansas City Houston game is interesting. I'm a Jet fan, so Cleveland New York is interesting to me. Looking forward to watching it. Colts at Buffalo I think is fascinating. Andrew Luck and the high-powered offense at Rex Ryan's. Now Rex Ryan comes to a team that's already the number one defense in the NFL. I'm wondering if Buffalo can be like the 2000 Ravens in terms of how being like super dominant on defense, but they'll certainly be tested today. Let's see, Seattle, St. Louis. That's East Coast time. 1 o'clock game. That's a big one. I think the Rams always play the Seahawks close. The Rams are getting 4 points. I bet the Rams in that game. That'll be an interesting one. Then even the 4 o'clock games, Detroit at San Diego is kind of interesting. Two teams that are not really sure how they're going to do. You got two pretty good quarterbacks there. So that one, it's kind of a weird matchup, but kind of interesting to me. Tennessee, Tampa Bay, you get Mariota versus Jameis Winston. Baltimore, Denver, two good teams going at it. Giants, Dallas, the Giants, Dallas usually play really good games early in the season. I do think that Dallas will beat them pretty handily this year. The Giants are kind of a one-trick pony, passing game and nothing else. Tomorrow night, Eagles at Atlanta, interesting a little bit because Atlanta's home. A lot of people like the Eagles, and so do I. Then the night game, they always give you like one dud on the Monday night doubleheader to start the season. But Minnesota at San Francisco,
Yeah, they're both going to be interesting. I like them.
You know, Minnesota should be pretty decent this year. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but they'll be kind of a tough team and improved, even if they only maybe finish 8-8. And the Niners, I think, are probably going to just be awful, like most people think. But they are home, and it's first game of the season, so we'll see what happens. But let's get into some Strat football now. I'm glad we covered that quickly because we are both big NFL fans, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't be playing this game. And yesterday morning was the SOMIFA draft, as all the SOMIFA listeners certainly know. And it was a really good draft. I mean, SOMIFA is a 24-team league. It's a keeper league. Every fall, we draft the day before the NFL season starts. 10-round draft. And pretty much SOMIFA is the league, in my opinion, that has the highest percentage of top-notch coaches and GMs compared to the other leagues out there. I mean, there's maybe one guy, I don't know, who's not that good at GM. There's maybe only just like a few guys, like 3 or 4, who you would say, who. There's like 20 guys out of 24. You'd be like, oh yeah, he's a real good coach. You know, maybe even 21 out of 24. I don't know. You know, so yeah, it's a good league. It's been around for a long time now. I think this is year 13 maybe of the league. I'm not sure, but anyway, when the draft started, we did our mock draft. Dennis, did you check out the mock draft results? I can't believe I'm doing this to myself. You there, Dennis? You there? Oh, I lost him. Looks like I lost Dennis. Or he got tired of hearing me ramble by myself. I'm sure he's going to jump back in. Internet's good. Well, I'll proceed without him. I was about to give him kudos because he was much sharper than I was on the mock draft. But the draft started with a trade. Really surprising all of us. I mean, there have been a number of trades rumored in terms of guys putting picks up. Rumored in terms of guys making high picks available. I know Nathan was picking first. One second, guys. I'm trying to get this going. You had, I have a feeling Dennis doesn't even know he's disconnected at this point. Unless I'm the one disconnected. Doesn't say that I am. I'm going to pause this one moment, gentlemen. Forgive the delay. I'll be right back to you. I just texted Dennis to see what happens here. But anyway, the first pick in the draft, Nathan had the first pick in the draft. There was some talk he might trade down. None of us took it that seriously, meaning Dennis and me, I guess, because we thought he would have wanted a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, great. Didn't miss anything because I kind of paused to text you. But Dennis, one of the things I wanted to say was I'm a little reluctant to bring this up, but did you look at the results of the mock draft?
Yeah, I was like nailing picks left and right. I got like 10 picks right.
You nailed you got the first 5 picks correctly.
Yeah, the very first.
And I was upset. I'm supposed to be the mock draft guy, and then you come in the first time around, you know, and you do a much better job getting the picks right. So that was not good.
That was beginner's luck.
That should be not for you. But anyway, so we had the draft yesterday morning. So you know you got disconnected before, right? You were aware of it?
Yeah. My computer locked up. So
we had the draft yesterday morning. There had been some rumors of, you know, guys putting picks up and making picks available, but no deals had come to fruition. And then bang, the draft starts, and Nathan trades out of number 1, which I think surprised you and me a lot. I think that with RG3 as his quarterback, I think you and I just assumed, listen, Nathan's saying, you know, yeah, the pick's available. Maybe maybe you bowl me over, and you'll get it. But he actually traded the pick. I was shocked. I mean, I know Bridgewater is not looked at like Andrew Luck was, not that level of quarter, or even like RG3 was. That's that great rookie year, but still a solid quarterback. You don't have one. So I was surprised by that. But basically, it was Renee trading. Let me bring this up here.
Yeah, he traded Foles, the 15th pick, and a second-round pick for the first overall. I thought that was a very reasonable price to pay for Bridgewater. What do you think?
I thought it was a fair deal both ways. I don't mind Nick Foles too much. I know you pointed out before we went on the air that he looked terrible in the preseason. I don't worry too much about preseason, although if a quarterback looks terrible, that's not a good sign, especially a quarterback on a new team in a new system. And he threw all those picks last year, so that 27-2 from 2 years ago might be an aberration. I was thinking he's going to be better than last year, but nowhere near as good as the first year. But this is a great draft. You get a 15, and then you get the 10th pick of the second round. Foles is really going to be the key to the deal. If Foles can be, even a Matt Schaub like Houston when he was decent on the Texans, Foles can be like at least like a competent starter for like 5-6 years. Then it's a good trade for Nathan. But if Foles stinks, then you're giving up. And Bridgewater is at least solid, and all signs seem to indicate that he will be. Nathan, I think, is not as big on Bridgewater as other people. Then it'll go the other way. I think here's the deal: as long as Bridgewater is at least good, it's at least a fine deal for Renee. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
As long as Bridgewater is at least good, it's a fine deal for Renee. If Bridgewater stumbles, of course, then it's not a good deal for Renee. And Nathan needs Foles to come through for it to be a good deal for him or for Bridgewater to stumble. So I thought it was a fair deal on both sides. I think I'd rather have kept the pick and taken Bridgewater if I needed a quarterback on my team, because you don't know where you're going to get another one.
Yeah, I would not have done the trade if I was Nathan, but that's because I'm a big believer in Bridgewater, and maybe he's not as big a believer.
Yeah, so. And when you say a big believer in Bridgewater, I mean, do you see we talked about this last time, so I think what you said is you see him as more like a number 8 to 15 type of quarterback when he gets going, and not a top 5 type guy, correct?
I think he can be a top 5 guy now. The more I study him, the more I look at him. I think he can be, a top 10 quarter. Now, who's
I said top 5, not top 10. Is a
top 10 for sure.
Well,
with the possibility of a top 5.
Yeah, but there's a real separation when you talk about the Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. That you already got 4 guys there. So I mean, I don't see Teddy Bridgewater ever getting to the level of those 4 guys, but he could be Matt Ryan, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
And Matt Ryan's really good in the strat. So I think it was Paul who said he'd be happy with that. So anyway, it was a big shock to me because I just didn't think it was going to happen. So the trade was made, and it's a good thing. It's a great draft, of course, this year. This is the deepest draft class I've ever seen, and the draft has so many good players. I mean, 6th, 7th round, you're getting guys who are good. I was like, wow. And I had a lot of picks, so I was glad for that. So Renee had the first pick, and he took Teddy Bridgewater. No surprise there. Good, solid pick. I think Renee made a good move to trade up. Renee is certainly not cautious. Not only cautious, certainly not conservative in trying to improve his team. And he made a couple of trades. Renee started out drafting 4th. He traded down to 15 to get Forsett, then traded up to 1 to get Bridgewater. So that's a pretty good job there. And his team for the year, I think, will be pretty good. He's still got Kyle Orton, so he can quarterback him if he wants to. Kyle Orton, Justin Forsett. But we don't want to review all the teams now. That'll be with the draft. But you have to look at the teams. You have to look at the teams a little bit. But I think Renee is kind of like going for the year a little bit, but not totally selling out the future. But I think the team has improved for the year while improving long term at the same time. So I thought he made a bold move, and I thought a good move, as you alluded to when you traded for Russell Wilson in the Tannehill deal. Before we knew Tannehill would be decent. Look, if you get a guy who you're very confident is going to be a 10+ year quarterback, you don't have to keep chasing him. How many first and second and third round picks are you going to invest trying to get that 10-year quarterback, or trying to have to constantly trade for the Kyle Ortons and the Colt McCoys and these guys who come out of nowhere to good Dan Orlovsky, these guys who come out of nowhere to get a decent card, so that you could try to compete without having a top flight quarterback. So I think Renee did a good job here. Not that Nathan did a bad job. See, Nathan's such a good GM. You feel like he's going to eventually get his quarterback anyway, but you definitely passed on one. You had one and you passed on it, but he doesn't like Bridgewater much. So Bridgewater will prove one of them right or wrong in the coming years. The number 2 pick was Tony. I don't remember who we picked on the mock here, but he took Khalil Mack. Everyone thought Khalil Mack.
You just said I got the first 5 right, so you know that I picked Mack.
Yeah. You see, I knew I should have mentioned that. I knew I should not have brought that up. I set myself up for endless degradation.
Nah, you're fine.
Because of the disparity in our mock drafts. Khalil Mack, I think we both had him as the number 1 defensive player on the board. Now, I've heard him referenced in recent articles as a defensive end. And so I guess Logan's going to be playing more defensive end than an outside linebacker this year. Have you heard anything about that?
No. Actually, I heard I heard a little bit about that, but that would be I think that would be a good thing if you get that 6'10" kind of defensive end going on. That's not a bad thing.
Well, I like him as a pure 6'6" linebacker, so I would prefer him as a linebacker. But he's so good, I wouldn't worry too much about it. You know, DeMarcus Ware, other guys have kind of gone back. Terrell Suggs, other guys have kind of gone back and forth, defensive and outside linebacker, without too much difficulty. You know, and Oakland doesn't have a great linebacking crew, so you could see him playing maybe both positions. I don't know. We'll see what happens starting later today when they host the Bengals. And I have Oakland +3 in that game. In case you're scoring at home, I've got Oakland +3 today. I've got the Rams +4 at home against Seattle. And I took Buffalo +3 at home against the Colts. I went with 3 home dogs. I like the home dogs. Anyway, Khalil Mack, I think is a great player, so solid pick for Tony on a rebuilding team. Aaron Donald goes 3rd to the Bears. He has that real good front 7. We got a couple of good guys in the front 7 already. J.J. Watt and Justin Houston, I know. So Aaron Donald, very strong pick. He's going to have an animal front 7 on that team, and he's got Matt Ryan. So you feel good about those things. Now, number 4 pick was Wayne, who we know has been looking for a quarterback forever, ever since Matt Schaub, finally, fell off the planet a couple of years ago. That Seahawk game with the interceptions, right? So we knew that Wayne was almost certainly going to take a quarterback. He did go for Blake Bortles over Derek Carr. I know you like Blake Bortles over Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr better only because of the ESPN total QBR stat. Bortles with a naked eye has all the tools. The guy looks the part. I'm terrible at evaluating young quarterbacks. Good luck to Wayne there with Blake. We'll see what happens. And of course, he was the first pick quarterback drafted in the NFL draft last year. I think number 3 overall, maybe. And the other guys were late first-round pick, early second-round pick. So we'll see what happens. They play Carolina today. Now, here was a really interesting spot in the draft, number 5 overall, where TJ was selecting. Okay? Yeah. And we know that TJ has Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. And you and I discussed this in the SOMIFA draft preview show or mock draft show. If TJ gets on the board and one of the 3 quarterbacks is there, and we know how TJ likes his defense, is he going to go for one of those quarterbacks or is he going to go for the defensive guy? And you said he would go for the defensive guy, and you were right. He did take CJ Mosley. I thought he would go for the quarterback. See, I really feel like some of these guys who are really good GMs, they can pass on position players, but you can't pass on the quarterback and the running back because you're usually not going to find a great quarterback and running back unless you take them high. But you could fill solid linebackers and linemen and corners and receivers in other rounds. So if it was me and my team was in that position, I would say I'll go for the quarterback, but maybe he just doesn't believe in Derek Carr at all, which I can understand. I'm not huge on Derek Carr. I just think he'll probably be okay. I don't think any of these 3 quarterbacks are going to be a superstar. I think if one is, it's going to be Blake Bortles. I think Teddy Bridgewater is solid. I think Carr might be solid. I think Bortles is boo or bust. But he went for CJ Mosley, which I thought was interesting. But you nailed it. You nailed the top five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bridgewater, McDonald, Bortles, and Mosley. Number 6 was the Chiefs, now coached by Lawrence. And he took Odell Beckham. We had talked about Beckham. He had slid to number 9. Are you by your computer or not?
Yeah, I'm on my computer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was thinking maybe you could scroll up on the rosters to the.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to restart like that. These ESPN alerts have like locked up my web browser, so I'm gonna try to refresh this.
Okay, how refreshing.
I can't even. I'm gonna have to kill it and rejoin. Hold on.
Okay, sure. I'll continue then, Dennis. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Lawrence is picking 6 with the Chiefs. His first draft, I think, in SOMIFA. He's been in SSFA for a few years at least. And I don't know if he took this team over or is taking it over just now. This is the old Philadelphia team. And it seems like Tom Brady needs a lot of help elsewhere. Took Odell Beckham 6th. Went for the number 1 wide receiver in the draft who had a great rookie year. Blah, 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 blah. So I thought that was interesting. I thought he might have gotten a little, well, I don't know. Beckham's size is the only thing that concerns me about the long term with him. If he ever starts, slowing down or gets hamstring problems, and was injured in his first year with the Giants in camp. That's why he started off so slowly in the NFL last year. Missed the first few games, and then he had a hamstring issue earlier in camp this year. But that's probably much ado about nothing, and it'll probably be just ridiculously sensational again, like he looks. But Lawrence went for Odell Beckham, number 6. Then Jacksonville Jay, now playing in Cincinnati with this team. Even though Jacksonville, I think, is available, maybe he could rename his team. What if Ed would allow that? But Jay Villing rushed to the podium, as he said in the chat room, to draft Derek Carr. His quarterback was Andy Dalton. He wasn't positive one of the 3 quarterbacks was going to get to him. I think he said in his own draft recap in our section of the forum that he pretty much would have taken any of the 3 quarterbacks that were there. I just heard something in the background. Is that you, Dennis?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I mentioned Lawrence took Odell Beckham, and then Jay taking Derek Carr, and Jay was very happy about that. You recall that, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's who I predicted Jay to get. I knew that if TJ passed on the quarterback, that Jay would be really happy, and he'd get one of those 3.
Yeah, I agreed with you that if a quarterback got to him, he would take him. And I guess he would have taken any of the 3 if they had gotten to him. He was happy. Now, what was interesting here was this meant that Jeremy Hill really slipped in the draft. Because,
right.
Because I think
I had him going to KC, and I had Beckham and Hill flip-flopped here. I had him going to KC and Beckham later.
I just realized that. Now, I don't know if Lawrence maybe doesn't like Jeremy Hill as much, but that's a bit of a surprise to pass on Jeremy Hill to take a receiver, plus there are so many receivers in this draft. But even though Beckham's a great player, maybe just say, I know Beckham's great. I don't know that Hill is great. Maybe Hill is great, so I'll take the more surefire thing. But Ron had to be ecstatic. Oh, boy, I'll tell you. Now, Dennis, you've been talking a lot, about why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've been hearing about Jeremy Hill? You've been talking about the people liking him a lot and comparing him to Marshawn Lynch and things like that?
Yeah, there was a segment on one of the NFL shows where they were talking about the next 2,000-yard runner, and one person predicted, Adrian Peterson, which is not that big of a stretch, but another one, I was surprised, his choice was Jeremy Hill. So that's a nice vote of confidence. Of course, this is the same. I think it was Heath Evans. It's the same guy that predicted the Super Bowl to be Minnesota against Buffalo. So
okay.
So maybe he's just a little crazy guy on his predictions. But Jeremy Hill, he made some good points on why Jeremy Hill could run for 2,000 yards.
Battle of the 4-time Super Bowl losers.
Yes,
Buffalo.
At least one of them would be happy.
Yeah, I think I would bet against Heath when it came to that prediction. But I don't mind Jeremy Hill. I'm really kind of neutral on him. I don't feel like he's great. I don't feel like he's bad. If he became great, I wouldn't be shocked. But if he was just kind of like pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised either. But I think he's at least Eddie Lacy good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I mean, Ron Martin, who has Aaron Rodgers and is a real good GM, if Jeremy Hill becomes real good, you get Aaron Rodgers and Jeremy Hill, and we already know what kind of coach he is, and has won multiple championships. I mean, he can just start tearing up the league. We'll be playing for second place.
Yeah, could be.
You know? So okay, so he had to be ecstatic with that. Now Ron's not exactly one to toot his own horn or be overly boisterous.
Yeah,
but I think there was a smile of satisfaction when Jeremy Hill was on the board. And Jeremy Hill on the board at number 8. That is number 8. That is just not what you expect.
Nope.
I think in almost every league we think he's going to go top 5.
Yeah.
Then New England, new coach Jeff. What's it? Wenblatt?
No, he's not a new coach. He's been there for a while. But yeah, Jeff Wendlandt.
No, he's new to the league.
I think he took over last year for when Mike dropped it.
Yeah, he might have taken over the middle of the league, but he's
right.
He's not
his first draft.
First draft, yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name again? Wenblatt?
Wendlandt.
Wendlandt. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll get that right. Jeff Wendlandt. Okay. He took Travis Kelce. Kelce is playing today, from what I understand. So no worries with the injury there. He's a little older, 26. Well, this is a pretty good team for the year, though.
Yeah.
He's got Phillip Rivers, Lamar Miller. Did have a hole at tight end, so Kelce fits in nicely.
Perfect.
And look, Phillip Rivers is not going to play forever. So even though Kelce's already 26, you got a 4 or 5 year window or whatever, so that's fine,
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Green Bay went for Mike Evans, which I think you chose correctly. Do you recall that or not?
Yes, solid pick, and yes, that was a correct prediction.
Yeah, I thought he would go defense because that's the way that Ron likes to roll, but he didn't. Now, I thought, did Ron's team, he's got Matt Forte. He could have maybe gone for C.J. Anderson, but I think he went for the sure thing with Mike Evans. Oh, Evans got a hamstring problem, but if it seems like they received a lot of young receivers had some kind of like nagging injury or something this year, which is getting me a little concerned coming into the draft. Outside of Kelvin Benjamin, who was outright out for the year with ACL. Then Nelson took C.J. Anderson. That's a kind of traditional Nelson type of pick. Guy had a pretty good year. And, there are reasons to be hopeful about CJ, and then there are some concerns. I took him in the same spot in Autumn Wind, but it's a fine pick. But look, running back, you roll the dice a little bit, so nothing wrong with rolling the dice on the running back. You just know you're rolling the dice on a running back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we've seen running backs come and go so quickly. So, yeah, it's going to be more of a risk than other positions. But worth it, I think. In this case.
We need to do, this is the first one of these that we're doing, a SOMIFA draft review. We need to do an Autumn Wind style team-by-team chart or something before we come on, because it's so cool to look at the guy's entire draft class easily. But anyway, next time. Next year.
Yes.
Then Denver at number 12, we both nailed this pick with Zach Martin. Very safe pick. I mean, that team needs a lot of help. And Tony starts off with Khalil Mack and Zach Martin. They're going to be perennial Pro Bowlers. They're probably perennial 6s. So that's a nice way to get your team going. And they still have Eli Manning. So if Eli's okay, the team doesn't have to be awful forever,
Yeah. And he'll have, Odell Beckham is going to save the tail end of Eli Manning's career. I think that Eli's going to put up some nice stats the next few years with that. The defense will be terrible, but that offense will still produce some numbers.
Yeah, they'll be throwing all the time, too, because they can't run it, and they don't have any defense.
Exactly.
It's going to be 41-35. Then Philly, that's Jeff Bevier in this league, Mr. Oregon Duck. Took Joel Bitonio, a very safe, solid pick. I like that pick.
Yep.
Now, of course, guys have already done numerous write-ups on the forum. We do our draft review for our own team on the forum. Of course, mine was by far the longest, as always.
Yes.
6 pages in Microsoft Word, by the way.
Nice.
And so tell me I'm running a half a page per pick, basically. Wow, that's not good. That's a truncate. But Jeff did his there and talked about his picks.
Yep.
That's an easy place to look over
where team by team.
Guy, exactly, yeah. Then let's see. Detroit is that Brad?
Yes. No. Wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you're right.
Detroit is Brad, took Avery Williamson. I'm not a huge Avery Williamson fan. I think he's a solid linebacker. Could be better than that. More of a run stopper. I think guys see the 5 and like 45. Oh, he's a rookie. You got a 5. It's a 5 against the run, 4 against the pass. So I think you'd rather have it the other way around. Although I agree with something you wrote on the forum when you traded for Chris Borland, who's a 46. That 3-4 inside linebacker. That you like to have a good run rating there. You like to put the guy up against pass.
Right.
And of course, for short yardage, that's always going to help. So
yes,
I'm still going to focus on the pass coverage, and I'll blitz my guys and guess run occasionally, and you beat my 4, but I'll still try and stop the run somewhat.
Yeah, the rule set is it emphasizes the pass rating because we're playing with the 6 LB rule, and that more than anything else is going to dictate how well somebody can flat pass on you. So yeah, it is still more important, but the run rating is cool too. It has its uses.
Yes, absolutely. It's not like the run rating is useless. But you're picking a guy in the first round, 14. If you're thinking that because he got the 5 against the run, there's going to be a real good overall linebacker. I'm not so sure that that's going to play out yet. We'll have to wait and see as we go forward with Stratomatic because we've only had split ratings for one season. So, but I know that I'm in the minority, and look, I'm not down on Williamson. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he was going higher in drafts, including this one, than he should have because he got to 45.
You know what? The reason why he's going higher in drafts is because there's not a lot of inside linebackers that are rated. There just wasn't. That's why. And if you needed that spot, you got to go get him. So. And
even in this entire Stratomatic football set, it just seemed like inside linebacker was kind of a weak position.
Yes.
Which would make guys valuable. But I would have preferred to see Williamson in the 20 to 30 range.
Yeah.
But maybe in the minority. I do think the guy's a solid linebacker. I think what you hope is that he becomes kind of like David Harris on the Jets.
Yeah.
Like a nice solid, not a superstar, but a real solid, perennial 5, sometimes 6.
Yes.
I think Brad would sign on for that. We'll see if it happens. He's supposed to be a pretty good player, but personally, I had him lower on my board, and no way to take him over Anthony Barr. But then again, Brad, that's Kendall's old team. Maybe he's got a good team for the year. Needs help with inside linebacker as well. So if you get a guy that helps for the year and is good for the future, that's always a good job. Atlanta, Nathan, who had traded down, and it was rewarded. Anthony Barr going 15th.
That's great.
I thought it was a little low for him. A couple of picks, maybe 13, 12, somewhere in there. And I think Anthony Barr's been really good in one of my 9 A grades. So nice pick by Nathan there. No surprise. I was a little surprised at first, but then not surprised when Paul Mankiewicz took Brandon Cooks 16. Despite all my accolades for Brandon Cooks in all the shows, I felt like a lot of people were going to say, look at his card. It's not that great. And he's a small guy and he was injured. I'm not going to go for Brandon Cooks here in the top 20 or something. But Paul was like, no, this all makes sense, so I will take him. And Paul has a great track record with wide receivers. So I was slightly surprised at first, but then it made sense afterwards, and I think it is a real good pick.
Yeah, and I nailed it. And this is the hardest one to pick, but I knew that Paul would tend to go towards Cooks over Watkins, which may surprise some people. I don't think I would have gone that way, but Cooks is a Paul type of player. When he lines up those maxed out wide receivers, you're going to be in trouble. So he's starting to rebuild that Houston Texans legacy of stud wide receivers.
Yeah, I had Cooks as my I had Cooks ahead of Watkins because of the NFL situation. I mean, as long as he's healthy, I have no. Is there any doubt that Brandon Cooks is going to put up like big fantasy football numbers this year? He's like the only receiver they have down there in New Orleans right now, and they still have Drew Brees. Whereas Watkins is playing with Rex Ryan and Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback wants to run the ball. Not to mention the weather. So it's like, if we had a scouting combine and you line them up next to each other, and I was picking an NFL team from scratch, I'd probably take Sammy Watkins. But we're playing strat football, and if Sammy Watkins, it's not his own fault. Look, if Sammy Watkins has 58 catches for 880 yards this year, and gets like a Nate Washington type of card, it's not his fault. It's the way that they're playing up there, you know. But Brandon Cooks is probably going to get 82 catches, 1,300 yards, or something like that. And he'll get that maxed out strat card, which I don't think Sammy Watkins will. So that's why I like Cooks better, even though it's not a knock on Sammy Watkins. He's really more a victim of circumstance. I mean, he's in one of the worst passing situations in the NFL right now. Would you agree with that?
I would, but that can change. You're drafting a person for his entire career. So I could see, that changing. It could change this year. It could change because
this year, really.
Yeah, it could change because
Matt Cassell's going to come in and start lighting it up.
Not Matt Cassell, but
EJ Manuel.
No, who's the guy they're starting?
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, maybe he can throw. I don't know. Maybe he
can throw. I saw him in the preseason. He tried to throw a bomb. It was awful.
Oh,
it was a duck flailing around out there. He can
run. I thought maybe he could be like Russell Wilson light. Like a running.
He can be like Russell Wilson throwing left-handed.
Okay.
No. That's the same thing with Russell Wilson. Yeah, is Russell Wilson a running quarterback? Yes. Russell Wilson has a strong arm.
Yes, he does.
Russell Wilson throws a really good deep ball.
So this
guy Taylor, they say he's smart. They say he makes good decisions. I think his accuracy. I don't know about his accuracy, but all I know is look. You talk about small sample size. It's only one pass. I saw him throw one bomb in the preseason, and it was awful. It was ugly. It was up there forever down the sideline. It was flop. It was like a Billy coming out wobble. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of downfield passing from him. I think that he can be effective still with that team, and with the way they want to play football. But I think it's going to hurt Sammy Watkins big time. And I would agree with what you said. You're drafting a guy for his whole career, and the situation can change. But we know what the first 2 and 3 years are going to look like, pretty much. I mean, barring drastic change, Brandon Cooks will have a pretty good Drew Brees the first 2 or 3 years, and Sammy Watkins will have God knows who as his quarterback, and Rex Ryan, who wants to run the ball, as his coach for the first couple of years. So at least like 30% of their career, it's heavily favors Cooks. And then after that, we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I will concede that point.
Okay. Next, this pick surprised me a little bit. NFL Ed taking Taylor Lewan. Taylor Lewan's a fine player. Ed likes to take the best player available. Taylor Lewan's a very safe player, I think. I think there's like no doubt that Taylor Lewan will pretty much be at least a 5.5 like every year.
Yeah, I love his attitude. He's was talking about being a dirty player. He's like, man, this ain't tiddlywinks, man. This is a physical game. So I like that. I like that in offensive lineman.
Yeah. I like Taylor. Yeah, I like Taylor Lewan. My own concern again is because of Mariota scrambling quarterbacks take more sacks, harder to get sevens in strat. I had thought about my comments regarding that, and I want to one day look at some of the offensive linemen for some of these scrambling running backs, quarterbacks rather. But now, how much of it is the offensive line? How much of it is the quarterback? But if you think back in the day, like Randall Cunningham used to get sacked a lot. Russell Wilson, those Seahawks lines are not really giving him sevens, although they don't have a lot of talent on the line usually. Donovan McNabb, when he was a Philly, wasn't getting a lot of sevens on the line. Compared to Andrew Luck runs somebody. He doesn't run like Russell Wilson or like Marcus Mariota presumably will. Even though I know you said we don't know how much Mariota is going to run. I bet you Mariota will have at least 12 units of must run on the card next year.
Yeah, I bet you're right. I think that I think my comment earlier was about what I've seen from the Titans in the preseason. But I think they're doing just the same thing that the Redskins did with RG3's rookie year. They didn't show any of that read option stuff in the preseason, and then they busted it out in the regular season. I think you're going to see a lot more running today from Tennessee.
Although they say that Ken Winston likes a traditional stand-in-the-pocket passer. I read that somewhere in the preseason, so maybe not. Well, we'll see what happens. You mentioned that. It was interesting. I saw some comments from Mike Shanahan, former Redskins coach, who, of course, coached RG3 as a rookie in his second year. And he said that he really thinks that things went downhill in Washington when Snyder and RG3 wanted to turn him into a more conventional quarterback. It's like, you just did a great job this rookie season. Everything went well. We know you don't want to hit too much, blah, 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 blah. But, this is a big part of your game. And they went away from the zone read stuff a lot, and the results were very poor. I mean, but even that comment from Shanahan, who I know is angry about the whole situation or whatever, or views it negatively, it reveals Dan Snyder being way more involved in football decisions than you want your owner to be.
Yes.
He's a lawyer. Look, Dan, we all play fantasy football. We play Strat. We like football. You hired the expert. You hired a head coach. You hired a guy with a good offensive background. Let him coach his guys. If he wants to do zone read, do zone read. So anyway, RG3's on the bench now, so that didn't work out too well. Anyway, so Taylor, I think is a solid play. I just liked Ed for maybe Carlos Hyde, or for maybe one of the corners, because I like the secondary guys. So I was just a little surprised by that pick. Were you surprised at all, or not really?
Yeah, but when Ed explained his picks, it kind of makes sense. He wanted the sure thing. He said he had 17 players that he liked more than anybody else, and that was one of those players. So that's who's going to question NFL Ed's player evaluation. The guy always makes good picks. So
sure,
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I had no problem with the pick. I was just surprised by it.
Yeah, a little
based
bit
upon some of the options available to Ed, and like you said, this is a very safe pick.
Yes,
like some of these guys, like Taylor Lewan, Joel Bitonio, Zach Martin. I mean, there's like no doubt that these guys are going to be very solid. Go C.J. Mosley, Aaron Donald. There's no doubt that these guys are going to be very, very solid, good players. Like I said, at a minimum, Lewan's going to be like a perennial 5'5" at a minimum, and 6'5s and maybe 6'7s. Who knows? So the Vikings go Dale, who likes to run 4 wide. So guess what? He took a wide receiver. Took the best one available by most people's estimations. Sammy Watkins.
Very good pick. And I bet he does get maxed out short and long next year. Let's see what happens, even though that quarterback's terrible.
Maybe long, but not short. Maybe a little Torrey Smith action.
Okay, I could see that.
So let's see. Then Buffalo, Scott was on the clock, and I think this was an interesting pick because I think his team may not quite be ready for primetime this year because of AP being hurt and getting long in the tooth elsewhere. And he took another, there are these guys who are not super exciting, sexy picks, aren't going to be, a 6'12" with a 9 asterisk or something like that, but they're very solid, good players that you think will be at least like perennial 5s. And I put Preston Brown in that category. And maybe those guys get a couple of 6s or whatever, or maybe they become a perennial 6, but in terms of how you view them now, and I put Preston Brown in that category, and there's nothing wrong with picks like that. I like guys like that, and it's late in the first round. So I thought that was like kind of a nice, solid line drive, base hit type of pick. What do you think?
I like it. This is another one I predicted correctly. It's really hard to get picks right when you're in the 20s, but the draft just fell the same way that I thought it would. I think he is actually going to be a very good player. There's nothing wrong with having a guy that gets 4 or 5, 5 rated, 5 ratings, and that during that stretch. That's a good player. You need players
absolutely.
like that.
Absolutely. So again, David Harris is a great example of that type of player.
Yeah, or even somebody like KJ Wright before he got his 6.
That's right.
This is a good player. You need guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. London Fletcher was like that for years, and they finally started giving him 6s. So
yes,
and as an inside line, and I feel like it's maybe easier. Well, before they did split ratings, I felt like it was maybe easier to get a 6 as an inside linebacker. Now, I mean, there's only like 2 or 3 linebackers in the whole set, I think, that are true 66s.
Right.
But if that's the way Strat's going to do it, then hey, the 56 or the 55 becomes a lot more valuable. Yep. I mean, right now a 55 linebacker is really strong because I feel like there's not even enough of those around for you to feel comfortable and confident.
Absolutely.
So that's a solid pick. Then come the Jets with another shaky selection. Couldn't take the same guy, took a no-one win in the second round. So to me, I mean, it's my own pick. So I guess I'll say what it's say first, but I feel like Ryan should be very much a boomer bust guy, as you could have read in my opus on my draft.
Yes. I like the pick. I think that he can be an impact player as an inside linebacker. And I think he's one of the few inside linebackers that, because of his speed, will get has a chance to get good pass ratings and good run ratings. So, the inside linebackers, they don't really get great coverage numbers in Pro Football Focus unless they have speed, and he has speed.
Yeah, Yeah. I'm hoping that the speed. And another thing is, I thought on Thursday night he played in the opener. That was the one game we got to watch before the draft. Of course, was the Thursday night Patriots Steelers game to open the NFL season. And he looked a little bigger. He looked like he had bulked up a little bit, which is good because he needed to. So I felt a little more comfortable from an injury standpoint. I was not as enamored of him as Jeff Bevier was after that game. And Jeff said he was all over the field, blah, blah, blah. He graded out okay for that game. It's only one game. And you're playing the Patriots, a great team. And
Right.
you're playing against Tom Brady, so, you know. But, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping with the speed he can get good pass coverage. And one thing I thought you were going to say before, which I didn't think about, is that maybe with that speed as an inside linebacker, maybe he's one of the rare inside linebackers that can get some sacks.
Oh, you saw that last night. He didn't get sacks, but he was cutting inside there and tackling guys in the backfield.
Yeah.
And if that was a pass play, that would have been a sack. So yeah, I think he definitely can be like one of those guys who gets consistent, like 5.8s or 4.8s or 4.9s or 6.9s. You never know what kind of player he can develop into, but he can have those. If all he needs to do is all he needs to do is get 4 or 5 sacks, that's going to be a piece of cake for him, I think. So
that's
true.
And the inside linebacker pass rush is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Now I'm transitioning to 3-4 because that's by far the best strat defense, as we all know, especially with all those linebackers getting forced in their pass coverage. So if you're playing a 3-4 inside linebackers that can rush the quarterback, even one guy, it is such a blessing, because he doesn't cover anybody. You can blitz him, and you don't have to worry about him having abandoned his coverage. So
right.
So I mean I think Shazier is kind of a boomer bust player. I worry he could be a little too small, maybe injury prone, maybe get blocked too easily. I was encouraged by what I saw the other night. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think he got a chance to be pretty good. So we'll see what happens. It was a risky pick for me, not one of my safer picks, but he has a lot of talent. I don't mind if you go boom or bust. And the way my team is right now, I felt like I could take a chance. And again, I had a lot of other picks, and I knew I was going to get good players elsewhere in the draft. So I felt like I could afford to gamble at certain spots. Like I talked about with TJ with drafting Mosley over the quarterback. I feel like if you're a good GM and you can draft solid players in other rounds, you can afford you can more easily afford to take some gambles and go boom or bust. Also, if your roster is more complete, and while my team on the field is not really good right now, they're not. They're mediocre at best, or just mediocre. Long term, I really like the roster the way it's shaping up, so I said I could take a couple of gambles if I need to. All right, so moving on to number 21 was Jason Verrett. Nathan took him. I'm a big Jason Verrett fan. I know he's small, but he graded out real well last year before he got hurt, and they've talked about him highly in the preseason. So I thought that was a good pick. I thought he was the best corner to get in the draft. What do you think about Jason Verrett and that pick?
I like it. I think that Verrett has got the potential to be like a 5 or 6 cornerback for several years. I would put this as a very safe pick. He's a quality player, even though he has a 0 this year. I think that's not going to last. We saw, who he reminds me of? I mean, from Strat ratings wise, is Xavier Rhodes from the Vikings. So he started off as a 0, and then boom, he's been a 5, and he could get some 6s as well. That's what I see happening with Jason Verrett.
Yeah, the only thing regarding him being a safe pick is that he did miss half the season last year with injury, and he's a smaller guy. So you wonder sometimes if a smaller guy might be more injury prone. But from the player's ability, very safe pick, and I like the pick a lot. And I love cover corners. So and also I see Verrett more as a perennial 5 than a 6, maybe 1 or 2 6s in there. So, but in this draft, that was maybe the best you were going to get. So anyway, Clinton Dix, nothing wrong with that pick. Tony wrote that he wasn't that thrilled with the pick, wasn't that excited with the pick. Again, it's because he's a rookie free safety 4. So you feel like, I'm already taking a free safety in the first round. He's only a 4. But he's a good player, and he was in my top 25, and he's a great athlete, and I think he's going to grade out pretty well in pass coverage, and that'll get him 5s and 6s. And look, you want to take a good, solid player. You don't want to take an inferior player at another position, especially when you're a rebuilding team like Tony's Broncos. You need so many players. Just take a good, solid player. Don't worry about the position.
Agreed. And I think he's a playmaker too. I don't think he's just your typical flame out free safety 4 that turns into nothing after a couple of years. He's not he's not the next Mark Barron. He's good. He's a good player.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's a good athlete. I mean, that's what you want out of a free safety. So then 23, John Madden, the great John Madden. This guy's one of the best GMs, one of the best drafters in strat football anywhere. This surprised me though. We took Martavis Bryant. Look, we all know Martavis Bryant's got a world of ability. He's already, I think, maxed out on the long pass. But 4-game suspension very early in his career for a guy that wasn't even like a top pick, so he really shouldn't be messing around. So for that, the off-the-field stuff has me a little concerned, and I did not have him above certain receivers like Jordan Matthews or Devontae Adams for those reasons. I don't see how you take Bryant over Jordan Matthews or Devontae Adams, both of whom I think will be very solid, rock-solid receivers with Bryant's off-the-field problems. So I mean, look, if Bryant doesn't have those problems, awesome. He's like, Randy. He's like Randy Moss light. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he'll have that long pass threat, maxed out 21, a big average, blah 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 blah.
I'll tell you why he took Bryant.
Okay.
He wants to win the league.
There you go.
And that card is absolutely sick. Those other guys might be safer picks. They might get better cards in the future. But Martavis Bryant's long pass card and short pass card are going to win you strat football games. So he wants to win. He wants to win now
because the incompletion of the short pass card. But yeah, I didn't think of that. It's a shorter term selection, and that makes more sense also because again, when you're a great GM and John is a great GM, you can gamble on a pick or you can take a pick for the now when your team is good because you're going to make good picks in other rounds in general that are going to improve your team.
You have more depth. You have more good players, so you can take those chances. So he could take a Martavis Bryant and then trade away a Dan Williams who he has as an extra nose tackle 5 to get another higher pick next year where you can take the safer player.
Yeah, instead of having to take Calvin Pryor or somebody because I need a safety because I've got like 4 holes that I need to get somebody who's going to be there for 9 years.
Well, he does have a hole at safety. He's starting Daquan Jarrett. No, I'm just saying. This is the example I'm making is he could have looked at that pick like most GMs would have said, "Oh man, I've got 0 at safety. I better take a safety." But he didn't. He went for the home run card, and he picked up a safety in the 9th round that is going to be out of the league or might be out of the league if he's not already. Just to cover that hole. So that shows you the sign of a good GM. He's going for the guy who's going to have the most impact over trying to fill a hole.
Yeah, and he's doing it for the year. And again, because it's a great GM, and his roster is already deep, like you said, and he drafts all the time, he can more easily afford to take a guy for the year than somebody else can. Now he lost the Super Bowl to Zeb, right?
Yes.
Who's his quarterback running back combo? Is it
Roethlisberger and Jamal Charles?
Big Ben and Jamal Charles, yeah.
And 5s and 7s. I have his roster up.
If you have Big Ben and Jamal Charles, you should probably go for the year.
Yeah, why not? And look at his defense, 5s with the pass rush.
Whenever I do the mocks and stuff, he just always has a tremendous roster. That he himself has put together. He's been in the league since the beginning.
Yep.
So and he has gotten close, but has not won the Super Bowl yet. So like you're saying.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
He's also gotten lucky. Look at this. He picked up Hussein Abdullah in the supplemental draft last year, who was a 0, 0 or uncarded every year up to now, and he gets a 6'4". Come on, Hussein Abdullah. Any of us could have picked him, but we didn't.
Maybe John saw something in Hussein Abdullah that he liked,
or maybe he just got lucky.
Yes, he just got lucky. But you get a little lucky with that one pick. But he's had a great roster for many years. Right?
Very good.
Long before Hussein Abdullah showed up on the scene. Last pick of the first round, Latavius Murray for Dallas. That's Zeb.
Yes.
Zeb is not going for it this year, really. Doesn't think he can defend the crown. I am not a huge Latavius Murray fan. I know other people like it. He took him over Carlos Hyde.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I had 191-yard run, and everyone's like, oh, look out. He had like 300 yards rushing all year. I know he's starting, but I don't know. What do you think of Latavius Murray as a player, first of all?
I like him. I think he's a very good player.
You like everybody.
You're right.
You're so optimistic. So it's like, oh, no, it's going to work out. And I was like, oh, this guy's awful.
No,
but
Oakland's getting better. They're getting better all around. And I think Murray shown some really good flashes last year. Carlos Hyde and Murray, if you switch their teams, I don't think that it would make that much of a difference. I don't think there's that much difference between the talent of those two running backs. They're both explosive. They both, come in with a decent amount of pedigree and experience. I think you could flip a coin and take either one of those guys. He did mention in his recap that he was waiting for input from you. He wanted a written input from the guru, and because of that, he wasn't sure if who he should have taken. And you had him taking Carlos Hyde way back in, I don't know, June or whenever you wrote the first one, or maybe it was in May. I don't remember, but he switched it up and went with the Murray. But
well, you posted the mock draft results that they didn't have all the commentary of my July written mock, because we did a video mock.
Yes,
and you don't have to sit there and listen to it, Zeb. You can turn on your computer speakers. You can walk around the house and do your things and listen to it, because it's really more like a radio. There's not a lot of visual.
Yes,
not a lot of visual highlights on these shows that you need to be glued to. You can pretty much listen to it, and you're getting it. But if you want some written feedback, I'll just give him a big thumbs down.
Sounds good.
Look. On the one hand,
I love picks like this though, because you can look back 3 years from now and say, "Gosh, I should have taken Hyde," or "Gosh, I should have taken Murray." I had a similar spot several years ago when D'Angelo Williams and who was that old Atlanta running back? Gosh, they both came into the league at the same time. I took the Atlanta guy.
Not Michael Turner.
No, it was
not Jamal Anderson.
No.
Rogers.
No, it was older. Think older. The guy who's, gosh, who did I take? Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter.
Chris Snelling.
No, it was a halfback, and then he went to the Rams. There was a kick returner. Gosh, what was that guy's name?
Yeah, I can't.
The point is, those two guys were the top running backs. I picked the wrong one. I chose the wrong road.
Okay.
And if I would have taken D'Angelo Williams, that would have been a much better pick. So
Indeed.
Zeb will be able to
D'Angelo Williams certainly better than some guy whose name we can't remember.
Yes.
Who was returning kicks to the Rams a couple years later. But I don't know. On the one hand, I feel like, boy, so many much more safer picks to take here. Especially in a team that's not going for the now. But I have to say, again, this league has so many good GMs. The hardest things to get: good quarterback, good running back.
Okay, it was Jarius Norwood. That's who it was.
Ouch. Well, you made the wrong call.
Yes.
I could have told you back then to take D'Angelo Williams over Jarius Norwood. Wasn't he a UFA or something like that?
He was a third-round pick. D'Angelo Williams was a first-round pick, but something I saw or something somebody told me or I read had me with Norwood just slightly ahead of.
I think he had some long runs that rookie year, like a 73-yard run or something, and
so
might have had a sexier call between short games and wrong. So, I remember him. But,
okay, Tom, I'm going to have to jump off here.
Okay.
I got to go take care of some things, but that was a fun look at the first round. If you want to continue on quickly on the other rounds, that would be awesome.
If not, I'm going to continue on.
Okay, great.
And I'll see you later.
Good luck today.
Thanks.
Yeah, bye.
Go Rams.
Go Hawks.
They're going to
blow them out. They're going to blow them out. You're going to be Dennis. You're right. You shouldn't have ever bet against the Seahawks.
Otherwise, later on, I'll be singing "We're in the Money." We'll see what happens.
All right, man.
See you later. Enjoy the games.
You too.
And that was Dennis Crowley, my broadcasting partner. Dennis took Jarius Norwood over D'Angelo Williams many years ago. But he was not on the clock yesterday. He had no first-round pick. So what I was saying there about Latavius Murray going number 24 to Zeb. Look, SOMIFA, this league has tremendous general managers. It's just and coaches. I mean, I got no guys in other leagues might be like, oh yeah, whatever. Our league is pretty good. Whatever. I've been in numerous leagues. I know guys in SOMIFA who are in numerous other leagues, and when we're instant messaging and whatever, this is the gold standard that they all tell me, pretty much. A little, I think it's easier because there's 24 teams. If you have more teams, the more coaches you have, the less likely you are to have everyone be strong. But I mean, just so many good GMs. I'm looking at the list. I mean, 3/4 of these guys, I would say, are like really, really good. GMs. But anyway, so in a league like this, and there's so many good coaches in this league, it's crazy. But in a league like this, when there's so many good GMs, look, it's draft football, quarterback and running back still rule the day. As long as you're not playing FPR, then you don't need a running back, really. But quarterback and running back rule the day, and it's hard to get a good quarterback and running back. Now, the running back sometimes won't have that great a rookie year, and then we'll step up after that like Jamal Charles did, and he was more of a second, third-round pick in a lot of leagues after that rookie year he had. But they're so valuable that they do get drafted highly, and if you're a good GM, it makes sense to say, you know what, I'm going to take it. I'm going to roll the dice on a running back because I know I can get linebackers and corners and linemen and receivers in the other rounds, and you can if you draft shrewdly. So from that standpoint, I could see Zeb rolling the dice at Murray. I'm just not a big Latavius Murray fan. I don't see it. I know everyone talks about him great, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. No one's 100% right, and I'm nowhere near close to 100% right. But I'm not a big Latavius Murray fan. I'm not a big Carlos Hyde fan either, to be honest with you. But at least Carlos Hyde, I feel like, is definitely going to get the ball. Murray's going to get the ball. I just feel like Carlos Hyde's in a situation where they kind of need him more. So they're kind of desperate. So I think he's going to have a chance. I mean, I wouldn't be stunned if the Raiders draft a running back in the second round next year or something, and he becomes the starter, So anyway, so I'm not a fan of that pick. Whether you need it writing or not, I think it was Dennis joking around about you wanting the written material. So that was your first round. Very good first round. Pretty much all the picks were good. So which always happens in this league, so I'm pretty glad for that. We'll look at the other rounds real quick because it's already 12 o'clock and the NFL games are going to be starting soon. Second round, Timmy Jernigan, Jack Newhart, Calvin Pryor, Carlos Hyde, Gabe Jackson, Telvin Smith, Jordan Matthews, Brandon Linder, Aaron Lynch. So this is interesting. We talked about the depth charts, and we talk about the footballguys.com is the website that Dennis introduced me to just last week. And I am now using them for my depth charts. I had previously used CBS Sports. And Aaron Lynch is starting on CBS Sports. He's like the fourth linebacker listed on Football Guys. So I know NFL Ed said, well, I don't know. I use CBS Sports, and I haven't read anything about someone like Dequan Jones, the defensive end for the Titans, not starting. He's not starting on Football Guys. So we'll see which one of these sites is more accurate. If Aaron Lynch is starting, it's a fine pick. If he's not starting, it's a bad pick. So there'll be a lot of that to look at in terms of trying to find the right information when you're drafting. A really solid second round, too. When I talk about the quality of the drafting, I mean, Eric Ebron, mid-second round is a great pick. Boom or bust, but, it's already the 10th pick of the second round. Great athlete, Jake Matthews. Kelvin Benjamin's out for the year, but should be back to Devon Kennard, solid linebacker. Bishop Sankey, you need running backs. That's the late second round. I'm okay with that. He's going to get carries. Parrish Cox, who was in the draft this year after being released last year by somebody when he looked like just a journeyman zero. I do think he actually is a good player based upon the fact that he had a whole season's worth of good grades. So I don't have a problem there. I'm not a big Jarvis Landry fan, as we all know from the other shows, if you listen to me on the win shows, but it's late second round. Kyle Fuller, kind of boom or bust. I love Allen Robinson, who got drafted here by me, so I should love him. But probably a little higher than he should have gone. Chris Kirksey looks like a solid inside linebacker who's starting for Cleveland. He's another guy, smaller, faster guy, so you have hope for him to get better pass ratings, and I want better pass ratings. I don't care about stopping the run as much as I care about stopping the pass. But I'm still going to put guys out on line of scrimmage. I'm still going to guess run sometimes. But if if you give me a team that can stop the pass or stop the run, I want to stop. Well, I mean, not going to be. You won't be awful against the run, but if you're going to give me a team that's good against the run or average against the pass, or average against the run and good against the pass in the modern game, I'll take good against the pass, average against the run, and I'll take with the split linebackers guys who could stop the pass over the run. Devontae Adams, a great pick, late second round, with 44 to the commissioner at Burrow. He's going to light it up this year with Jordy Nelson out, Randall Cobb nagging injuries. Devontae Adams was a second-round pick last year, was already coming on strong and played well in the postseason, was their third receiver last year. I'm very confident he's going to have a very good year this year. DeMarcus Lawrence, bit of a risky pick by Tim Bollier, late second round. I love Lawrence as a physical specimen, great athlete. I was impressed with him in the postseason last year. He's a 4-3 defensive end. That's what you want. Actually graded out well against the run, and he's supposed to have good pass rushing chops, so that could be a real devastating combination. Did not have good sacks year projections at all from Football Outsiders Almanac. That's the only stat that they have of their projecting stats. They try and come up with these stats to project NFL performance based upon what a guy did in college. And their sacks here is the only one that seems to actually work. And he graded out very poorly in that, or not very poorly, but not very well in that. That's the only question I have on him. I loved him before, so he could be a real great pick and end up getting like 5, 12 threes or whatever, or he could end up not rushing the passer for some unknown reason. So we'll see what happens. But not a bad pick. He's just an interesting player, and maybe should have got maybe 4 picks later. So not I wouldn't say it's a reach. Just an interesting guy to talk about. A bit of a boomer bust guy. Then Greg Robinson, late second round pick, had a terrible year last year, but he could slide inside if he struggles at tackle. And he's the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and he is playing left tackle. Nothing wrong with that. I like Austin Seferian-Jenkins a lot. Jeff Bevier took him late second round. I think that's a real solid pick. I'm a big Trent Murphy fan. I think he's a good two-end linebacker. I think he's good against the pass. I think that's an excellent pick. You get him in the last pick of the second round. Moving to the third round, Justin Britt. Not a fan of Justin Britt. He's a big guy, built more like a tackle, down the playing at guard. He was terrible at tackle. I don't think he's going to be good at guard. Just not a big fan of his. Bradley Roby. Look, these are the guys I picked. How am I not going to like the guy that I picked? I guess I could have a change of heart, the day after the draft, but I was pretty happy with my draft yesterday. I took Bradley Roby at 3.2. I like him a lot. His problem is he's not going to start short term because Denver has Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr., who are both outstanding corners. But my team, I've got good corners myself, Darrelle Revis and Joe Hayden, but I kind of see Roby ascending as Revis starts declining, and hopefully I can have a smooth transition there. My roster is pretty solid now. We're developing after this draft. It's become pretty solid, so I can actually look at things like that instead of having to need starters at certain positions. And Talib could leave Denver after this year. He's going to be, I think, 30 after this year. The contract becomes an issue, and teams are always looking to jettison high-priced older players if they have a younger guy they think can do the job. So it's possible that in 2016, Roby can be starting for Denver. He graded out very well in pass coverage for a rookie cornerback, which is very rare, and he was a first-round pick. So that combination, and it was in 800 snaps. It's not like he was, just getting 300 snaps or something. So that combination has to be very bullish on this player. Hold on, guys. Now the talent was, dropping off just slightly from here. There's still a lot of players I like, but the other guys not as much. So you can't kill the picks as readily. But Justin Ellis went to the Bears. It's Brad. He's playing a 4-3. Took Aaron Donald in the first round. So Justin Ellis in the third round, he switches from a 3-4, which makes sense then. I'm not a big Justin Ellis fan. He's just pretty much a run stopper. If you're going to play a 4-3, fine. This is not a double counting league, so you don't get as much of a benefit from the 5. But if you're going to play a 4-3, you need those guys. You know, the 5-0, 5-1, 5-2 type of defensive tackle. You know, usually you can trade for some of those guys who aren't not too expensive, but this is not a bad place to get one. He is a good run stopper, and he already has J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald, so he's not a bad guy to have there to complete your line. Corey Linsley, very good center. Nice place to get him, 3.4. Richard Rodgers, tight end, I kind of like. I think he might do well this year. Again, with Jordy Nelson injured, and Randall Cobb playing through some injuries. And Rodgers looks pretty decent, so not a bad pick. Trey Mason in the 3rd round. So that's what I like about this league. You know, all the other leagues I see Trey Mason going in the top 30. But, you know, look, they drafted Todd Gurley 10th. You know, Trey Mason is not the number 1 guy there. If they liked Trey Mason that much, they would not have drafted a running back in the first round. At number 10. And now Mason is a little banged up right now. I like Trey Mason a lot with the naked eye. I think he could be a number 1 NFL back. But it won't be in St. Louis as long as Gurley comes on and is healthy, which is what people expect in about a month. But here in the 3rd round, that's a good place to get a guy like that, you know. So guys taking Trey Mason in the top 30, I don't know if that's a good move long term. You get him in the 3rd round, sure. Let's see, Philip Gaines, corner. Russell Bodine to center 5.5. I don't like his future. Graded out poorly in PFF, but Dennis needed the guy for the year and says, hey, strike him at 5.5. Since he runs the ball, maybe he'll continue. Let's see, Charles Johnson, fine. Jeremiah Attawachu, I forget how to pronounce his name. I like him a lot. Was a late 2nd round pick or mid 2nd round pick by the NFL Chargers. Starting out as a linebacker, graded out okay. I think he'll be good, real good. So it's a solid pick by TJ, of course, who knows his defense. This guy TJ always dressed very well. He always has a roster just loaded. Because he's just always just hitting. He hits on like every single draft pick, especially on defense. Really quarterback and running back is the only place he has some problems. Defense, offensive line. He's like the Rex Ryan maybe of the of the SOMIFA. Isaiah Crowell, I like with the naked eye, and again, you know, decent for the year also. So, you know, it's been again mid 3rd round here. Johnny Manziel. Tim wrote up why I picked him. Now, Tim's done a great job drafting. I waxed poetically or prolifically or whatever. I complimented him big time on his drafts over the last 4 years, which, I mean, built an excellent roster all around, deep and well-rounded and high quality on his drafting. But this year, boy, Johnny Manziel, 3.14. I know that he was showing some things in preseason and, you know, maybe he's turned it around. But even if he turns it around, I'm not sure what his upside is. I don't think his upside is super high. His upside, I think, is more of a mid-level NFL quarterback. And there was just so many solid players around that you could take instead. Any of these safeties, Deion Buchanan, Trey Boston, Bradley McDougall, Andrew Norwell, Coney Ely. I know you took DeMarcus Lawrence. You could double down the defensive end with Coney Ely. You had a good team for the year. Maybe DeAnthony Thomas would have been nice. So not a big fan of the Johnny Football pick. I'm not totally down on Johnny Football. I just feel like for Tim's team, I don't know. I think 3.14 is too high for Manziel in this particular draft, unless your team has no quarterback at all. So didn't like that pick, Tim. But Tim doesn't mind me knocking his picks now since he won the AW championship and since I complimented his drafting of the last few years, and he did a great job. So you got to acknowledge when the guys are doing well. Deion Buchanan was a guy I really like to get. He had 3.16. He slipped in this draft. He slipped in all the drafts, it looks like, because he might not quite be starting full time. Plays a little bit of the hybrid role, which could hurt him. But I think in a year or two, he'll become a more traditional Strat safety. And I see a little bit of Cam Chancellor in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see perennial sixes out of Buchanan starting in a couple of years. I was drafting a few picks later. I was drafting 3.20, this one at 3.16. I was trying to trade ahead into the middle of the round to draft Buchanan, but no one was interested in my meager offer of a 7th round pick. and Paul half man, half Mankiewicz benefits by getting Buchanan at 3.16. Not a huge fan of Zach Bittenberger, but Ed's chasing quarterbacks, and Ed knows what he's doing. So again, when guys are good GMs and they do something a little questionable, you kind of give them a pass because look at the roster. The guy's a team for years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, and the roster's always good. So who am I to say bad move when the roster's always good? Darquez Dennard is kind of a weird player. First round corner for the Bengals who hardly played last year. Hardly played. Like less than 100 snaps, and he was healthy. But they have a loaded secondary. But they finally shipped out one of their guys, and everyone moved up up one spot in the depth chart. So Drake Kirkpatrick is now going to start, and he was like the previous Darquez Dennard. So maybe Dennard will take a couple of years to get going, like Kirkpatrick, and then maybe he'll be solid because Kirkpatrick I think will be pretty good this year for the Bengals. I took then you had the safeties, Trey Boston and Bradley McDougall go. I took McDougall. I was second in that tandem. Trey Boston went to Buffalo first. Nothing too exciting with those two players, but solid safeties. 4s, hopefully 5s is what you're looking for. But they're solid players. Andrew Norwell, solid player. Coney Ely, a little bit of boomer bust. But it's late third round. By the time I took him, that's already the 22nd pick of the third round. He has some pass rushing chops. He actually graded out okay in sacks here as opposed to DeMarcus Lawrence. So it'll be interesting to see which of those two becomes the better pass rusher. I think Lawrence has all the physical ability to me. But hopefully he will do something because I need a defensive end to go with Ezekiel Ansah. Then you move into the fourth round. The Anthony Thomas at 4.1. That's a good spot to get him. That's Ron Dickinson. You have maybe a good team for the year. You got the great punt returning card. He may be a future returner. You don't want to take a guy like that too high. But here, first pick of the fourth round is a nice spot to get him. And he now just kind of breeze through these rounds and call out players that I liked a lot. Travis Swanson, center for the Lions, got drafted by the SOMIFA Lions at 4.7, which means the seventh pick of the fourth round. That's a solid pick. Trey Turner shortly afterwards. Gerald Hodges I like a lot. 4.10 to the Giants. That's Renee. Gerald is scheduled to start at middle linebacker this year, according to footballguys.com. I think he's on the outside at CBS Sports, so we'll see again how the different depth charts play out starting in about 40 minutes when the NFL Sunday kicks off at 1 o'clock Eastern time. But Hodges graded out very well in over 400 snaps last year, both running pass. The only thing he didn't do was rush the passer, but the Mike Zimmer defense, not known for blitzing the linebackers a lot, from what I can recall with the Bengals. So I think you can make it a nice solid two-way linebacker. I have him in AW, and I like that pick a lot. Let's see. Moving down there, Jimmy Garoppolo, interesting pick, 4.16 to Wayne. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that, if he ever gets a chance somewhere, look, he's a Patriots backup quarterback, so he'll get a chance somewhere. Whether you're Brian Hoyer or Matt Flynn or Ryan Mallett, someone will give you a chance if you have been backing up Tom Brady. That's just the way it's played out in recent years. But Jimmy G was a high second-round pick, a little more pedigree than any of those guys, even though I liked Mallett. So we'll see what happens. Oops, I'm getting emails and texts all of a sudden. That's not good because they're distracting me from the show. Let's see, moving down the line, Christine Michael, boomer bust. Again, late fourth round. So once you start getting to these rounds, the perfect picks are pretty much gone, although some very good picks are made. I love Christine Michael, the naked eye, but you have to be concerned that Seattle drafted this guy in the second round and just pretty much didn't use him for 2 years. I heard fumbling was a problem. The ability to pick up the playbook well and to recognize the blitz properly was a problem, and they ended up jettisoning him. Now, there was excitement because he got traded to Dallas, and everyone was talking about it. That's because it was Dallas. If he got traded to Cleveland, no one would have cared. But I love the guy with the naked eye long before all that stuff happened. His college highlights are just – he looks like a really good NFL back. But then in Seattle, nothing. They didn't even want to play the guy. And then they were happy to get rid of him so that they could play some unrestricted free agent or keep him rather as third string. So Seattle is Seattle, who knows what they're doing and has done a great job with personnel in recent years. Jettisons their second-round pick from a couple years ago, Christine Michael, so that they can sign an old Fred Jackson and keep some UFA that they like. Somebody Rawls, I forget his first name. Those are very bad signs for Christine Michael. Now, on the other hand, I love the guy with the naked eye. He's in a new situation. He's back in his home state. Dallas is a great offensive line. He's infinitely more talented than any other running back they have. I think Joseph Randall will do good things this year, but I mean, Darren McFadden, are you kidding me? His career should be over. He shouldn't even be in the NFL anymore. So I think Michael has a chance by midseason this year to really step it up. I drafted him in AW as well. And I needed the running backs. So it was a little bit boom or bust for me. I took Christine Michael, late 4th round. And again, look, if running backs come through, hey, great. Let's see, moving on down the line. We'll go to the 5th round. Looking for picks that I like a lot that stump out. Morgan Moses to Nathan. I like that pick. 5.10. Yes, he's a right tackle. But, he was drafted reasonably, I think 3rd round or something. And, Gruden is the coach there. And, I think he's got a chance to be a solid tackle. It's a fine pick. Larry Donnell, 5.11, a good spot to get him. Danny Lansana, even though he's like 29 years old, is actually a good player. Nice pick by Dennis there. Omar Bolden, great return card. Is nice. Jawan Thompson, late 5th round. I kind of like him. Daquan Jones, if he's starting, excellent pick. If he's not, well, it's the 5th round, but that's a depth chart issue with CBS Sports and other depth charts saying he was the starter. Well, football guys saying, no, he's not the starter. Kyle Van Noy has a lot of ability, but he's always hurt. But Tamir Whitehead's hurt now, and Van Noy's getting healthy, so maybe Van Noy gets on the field. DeAndre Levy also injured right now. Might not be playing today. I forget. I think he's out today, Levy. So Van Noy could end up really being a steal for Zeb there in the late 5th round. Moving on down the line, 6th round. Daniel Fells got a pretty good card. Zach Kerr, pretty good pick. He's playing backup nose tackle and defensive end for the Colts. He could get some starting time over the rookie there and be a run stopper. Not a big Crockett Gilmore fan. It's already 6th round. I'm just telling you what I feel about the player. Marcus Martin is a steal, 6.8, starting center. And he was drafted reasonably well. What else we got here? Jonas Gray's got a pretty good card for the year. These drafts will thin out eventually. 7th round, Jason Morrow at 7.2 is a great pick because you get a guy who's out. Yeah, he's out for the year. We all know he's out for the year. Thank you. But it's the 7th round. I'm not a big fan of Jason Morrow. I'm a Jet fan. He looks lumbering to me. But, he was a 2nd round pick. And, he was starting. The Jets were counting on starting him again. So if he misses 1 year and comes back and starts and, turns into a decent tight end, great. Just got yourself a 5-year tight end in the 7th round. Of course, this is my pick, so, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I really like getting Sergio Brown in the 7th round. Free safety for the Colts last year, now on Jacksonville, signed as a free agent to start for them. Graded out well in coverage, which means maybe a potential 5, maybe not, maybe a 0, who knows. 7th round, he has some ability. Austin Davis, I kind of like. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him emerge as Cleveland's starting quarterback by the end of the year, if Johnny Manziel can't supplant Josh McCown, who will be terrible probably. Let's see, Jordan Devy starting. But that's about it. I mean, I'm not going to go on to all these rounds ad nauseum. It was a good draft. Maybe next year I'll try to do something where we can look at each team's draft class. Claude in AW does that. It's really nice. Where I can just click on you can just look at the team and see who we picked. It's a good way of doing it. So that's our show for today. SOMIFA draft recap. Next up for us will be a season preview for SOMIFA, coming sometime the next couple of weeks, and maybe some FPR XFL playoff games. I wouldn't mind broadcasting some games with the Flat Passes Runs rule. That's a league that I started this year. It's a 1-year only league, just to get some experience playing with that rule. And it is it's a different ball game, that's for sure. NFL Sunday. Enjoy your games. Let's go Jets. Let's go Rams, because I got them. I wagered on them over the Seahawks, and let's go Raiders, because I wagered on them over the Bengals. Rams and Raiders are the 2 wagers for the day for me. Rams +4 at home against the Seahawks. Raiders +3 at home against the Bengals. Let's see what happens. I also put something on Buffalo +3 at home against the Colts. All right, guys. Had a good time doing this. This is Tom. Adios.